Oh. So 1.6 is over equations and inequalities involving absolute values. The equations aren't really the problem. If we have an equation, an equal sign that equals 3, x could be 3 or negative 3 for this to be a true statement. That's all it means. So if we had an equation like the absolute value of x plus 2 equals 5, we'd have one that's x plus 2 equals 5 and one that's x plus 2 equals negative 5. And there's an example of that on the back. This is like the first page on 1.5 as well. This is just kind of the tips and tricks, and this will be on your blackboard as well. So when we get to the inequalities though, if I have the absolute value of x is less than 3 or less than or equal to 3, so as long as it's a less than, the x is going to be in a closed interval. So it's in a closed interval. I had to think of the right words. But on the flip side, if it's a greater than, we'd have to flip the sign with the negative and then have the greater than. So if I have the absolute value of x plus 2 is greater than 2, I'd have the absolute value, or x plus 2 is less than negative 2 and x plus 2 is greater than 2. And the same with this. So just keep this in mind. So if we have greater than, we're going to have discontinuous. If we have less than, it's going to be a closed interval. Also, you know, an absolute value of something has to be a positive number. So if we have the absolute value of something is less than a negative, it can't be less than a negative because all absolute values are positive. So if we have one that is less than a negative, there's no solution. If we have one that's greater than a negative, every absolute value ever is greater than a negative because every absolute value is positive. So if it's greater than a negative, it's going to be all real numbers, and it'd be that negative infinity to positive infinity, where this one's no solution. Just pay attention on this one because there's one problem that they have, and it's the absolute value, and you could work it out and solve it for x, but it's going to be this all real numbers, negative infinity to infinity. Okay, and I'll get to this when we're going over the problems. So there's my synopsis.